Hey guys, how's it going? John here with Cigars and Scripture. Today's a special one. We're doing the Noblesse. This is my dad, and we're both gonna be doing this. So pumped to do this. We've smoked this a few times, right?
I don't think I've smoked this one
Okay.
at all.
I think I've smoked one probably months ago, but I don't remember that. This time we're gonna be looking more in depth as to how it tastes, the construction, and we'll just update you on that, okay? So that you don't waste too much money on whether it's worth it or whether it's not, okay? So with that being said, this is the Noblesse, really nice looking La Roma de Cuba. And who makes La Roma de Cuba? I think it's my father's, right? Yeah, my father's. It's made for Ashton, right? It's so confusing looking at their portfolio. There's just so many. There's Antiquidad, there's the My Father's, and there's Don Papines. Yeah.
You gotta pronounce it properly. Antiquidad.
Antiquidad?
Antiquidad.
Oh, okay. Antiquidad. With that being said, we got our cutters, and we're gonna cut into this. Are you more of a V cutter, Dad, or do you
Never.
like it? Do you like that?
Always straight. I can on occasion go with a bullet punch, but
Punches are fun
it's
every
got
now
to
and
be
then.
a straight edge. V cuts always break down for me because I tooth my cigars.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you say that because, like, so I've tried one time with a Torpedo. I forget what brand,
Yeah.
the V cut, and it did work, but because of how we keep it a little more in our teeth, and we're a little bit of a toothy smoker, as you say,
Yeah.
it kind of ruins it. And this isn't too big of a cigar, so you don't need to use a quad, but we like our quads, right?
We do.
Doubles, I feel like doubles are a good alternative too because they have that punch. A little bit more than a single, but a little less than a triple, something like that. How's the construction on yours? Does it look good?
Looks good. It's got a.
Any blemish?
No, I don't see any blemishes. It's
No
got
cracks.
It's got a nice.
That's a San Andreas wrapper
Nice
right there.
construction, yeah.
Yeah.
What you're looking for is you want to see if there are bumps, if there are flavor bumps there. And if there are flavor bumps, then and they're very small, the flavor will be richer and more deep.
Do see a little bit.
Okay, it's a little bit.
Really excited. Let's get into it.
It's a rustic wrapper. It's a good looking wrapper.
Oh yeah.
Of course, they're always well made.
Mine does have a little bit of a blemish right here, but doesn't look anything too bad. I don't think it'll affect the combustion or the smoke altogether. We'll see. And it looks slightly square pressed.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that.
There's some edges to it. John's a hasty cigar lighter. Wants to get right at it.
Yeah, a little bit. I gotta take it easy.
Get away, John.
So we figured out the light. I get a little too hasty, as you can tell. Sometimes I'll either take too long, 5 minutes torching that, and I'm like, oh man, I got it half canoeing. Or I'll just get the flame right in there. So it's important to have a cigar buddy over here to check your bad behavior, you know what I'm saying?
So this is a nice cigar.
Yeah.
How did you hear about this cigar?
We were shopping one time at Carolina Emporium, Tobacco Emporium,
Yeah.
and usually I check the La Roma de Cuba. I first got introduced by the regular red label, which was it was the red label. It was like a medium-bodied one. Those were good. I liked them. The El Jefe, those were good. But one time we went, I saw a nice lavender purple label, and I was like, I've never seen that one before. It looked dark, so I was like, okay, that big and dark, that's how we like it, right?
Yeah, I think my first exposure was when I was with the yellow one. I think that yellow label was the first one they produced. I forget what it was called. I'm not sure if it had
Yellow La Roma de Cuba?
Yeah, it was a
Edition
yellow label.
Especial.
So my first encounter with
The edition
La
special.
Roma de Cuba was, yes, it was a yellow label.
Mm.
And I believe they were in Cigar Aficionado that year when they were first produced.
Really?
They were.
That's cool.
I'm not sure what level they were at, but they were in there, somewhere in the top 25, and they were pretty good.
That's cool.
But I was always willing to try out new cigars, new labels. And I got some. I liked them instantly. They were pretty good.
Mm. So how does this measure up, do you think, when you first do it? It's combusting pretty well. The burn lines look pretty good. The ash is pretty white. I know when we first start out a cigar, there's not much flavor, but as far as any sort of like unwanted, like plastic, acrid, nasty taste from a bad cigar, you're not getting any of that so far, right?
No. I had a cigar the other night when the first puff over the first quarter of the cigar was very floral.
Huh.
And it just tasted like flowers, and I didn't like it. It was like a perfume scent.
That's weird.
And it wasn't great. And I won't say what it was.
Hopefully not one of the cigars I gifted you.
No.
Okay.
But not disappointed in it.
Yeah. You know what? That's okay, because you have such a refined palate. What you like may not match up with what a beginner may like. Obviously, because they're just starting out. They don't even know what they like at that point. So, what I'm thinking is, let's say someone wants to get into a La Roma de Cuba, but they don't know where to start. Which blend do you think would be the best for them to start out with? Like a beginner level, medium bodied? Probably the
Yellow.
The yellow. So Edition Especial is a good beginner one. So far, I mean, I may not be getting too much of a flavor profile. However, I do sense like a sort of like upcoming strength almost, you know? You can tell when you first smoke a cigar that this is going to be a strong one almost, right? Anticipation almost.
I think so. It's really the middle third that is the most pleasant portion of the cigar, where you really begin to taste the complexity of the flavors and things begin to stand out above other. And the initial fire up of the cigar, that bitterness will disappear a little bit. You've got a chance to pair it with something that's
yes, almost forgot. All right, so since we're having such an amazing La Roma de Cuba, this is upper echelon of my father's, so why not have an upper echelon pairing night? We got a Disorno Original. It's like an Italian liquor. So it's one of my dad's favorites. He likes it. And I like it too because it's nice and sweet, and something sweet goes pretty good with a strong cigar, right?
There's always something unique about a handmade cigar versus a machine-made cigar. I remember the first cigar I ever had was a Garcia Vega. It was in a box, and we bought 4 or 5. A friend of mine and I, and we were riding around in his Volkswagen Jetta, smoking this Garcia Vega, and it said on the back of the box, 100% tobacco. So we had a blast smoking those cigars. They didn't have to be cut; they were punched at the end. They were machine made. Yeah. But the claim on the box was that it was 100% tobacco. So I thought, wow, I'm really having a real cigar here.
You made it.
This is a primo experience. So as I smoked it, it smoked all up and down the sides. There was no even burn, but I smoked it down to a nub and thought it was the greatest thing in the world. It tasted like dirt, but it was my first real 100% tobacco cigar. I threw up immediately after smoking that cigar. And swore I'd never have another one. But I never had another cigar until years later. I was selling groceries and tobacco for a major retailer here in the Northeast. And a customer of mine wanted a particular kind of cigar. And I'd never heard of it, didn't know what he was talking about, but he wanted a Macanudo moneymaker, and he wanted both of those. Moneymaker, which was a Connecticut broadleaf. The old guys smoke them all over the place, all over New England. And I think Henry Clay makes them. They were dark black Connecticut broadleaf.
Connecticut, okay.
Back
My
before,
bad.
back before Connecticut broadleaf was cool,
Yeah.
like today. But so he would get these Moneymakers and put them on the shelf, and people would buy them all over the place. And then he wanted a specific order for a customer, and that was the Macanudo Baron de Rothschild. And he opened the box and he gave me one. And
He gave you a free cigar.
He did. And for the first time it was my first premium cigar. And it was the first cigar that I smoked that didn't bite me in the back of the throat. Because usually you get some bitterness.
Now, how do you
can't
get
escape
that? Do you get that from a dry cigar, or is it just the bad blend that gives you that kick in that?
You can get that from any cigar, really, even a well-aged cigar. But I think it's just the interaction of the smoke with the back of your throat. But the way we deal
beginners
with
and
that,
veterans have that alike.
yeah, the way we deal with that is we drink a nice something sweet like a soda or a nice libation, or you spit. But one way or the other, that first cigar did not bite me in the back of the throat like the cheap machine-made one had.
Do you remember
It was
what?
smooth and it was good.
It was smooth. Okay. Did it taste good?
Baron de Rothschild.
When you first
I did
remember
not
it,
have a discerning enough
you
palate
didn't.
to be able to tell you what it tasted like at all. I just knew that it was mild. It didn't bite me like a cheap cigar, and it was pleasant to smoke. It had good smoke that came out of my mouth too, and I think that's a difference too. In the machine-made cigar, the Garcia Vega, the smoke was not mellow. It was not a mild flavor in my mouth. It was more of a black smoke as opposed to the refined white smoke of a well-aged, wrapped,
Well-aged,
handmade
well-cured,
cigar.
well-matured cigar. Okay.
So, what was your first cigar, John?
Oh, my first cigar.
Your very first cigar ever? I don't even know when this was.
There's three possible stogies that I first smoked. Four actually. Now that I think about it. So I was with you, and then I was with another buddy of mine. We got together on a Sunday after church, after listening to a really good sermon, and I find that those are the best days to smoke nowadays. But that was my first experience, which was on a Sunday. It was an evening. I was somewhere in Connecticut, tobacco country. Connecticut broadleafs, that's where they come. Connecticut Shade 2. Some of the most famous rappers in the world come from there. It was either a JR Edition Limitada cigar, or it was a Perdomo Lot 23 Maduro, possibly a Perdomo 20th anniversary, or it was a Prensado by Alec Bradley. I can't remember.
I had some of those back then. Yep, I might have given you one.
It was definitely one of those.
That was back when Cigar Aficionado named them amongst the top 10. I think they named the Prensado that year amongst the top 10. And I bought a few.
Mm-hmm. And
what
I
was
remember
the setting?
The setting was
Where
we were. It was you and it was Steve. We were at his place after the sermon. We were in his backyard. He had a nice shed. Yeah.
Okay.
He had a nice shed. He had a nice little PT porch, and we just sat our chairs on there after probably eating like pizza, or we had some nice Italian cuisine. It was pretty good. You hit the spot. So I think you hit all of those were like a medium to full experience. So I started off kind of risky, but I didn't throw up. I liked what I was tasting. And I felt a little queasy afterwards. I didn't smoke it down to a nub like I usually do. But I was like, you know what? I like it. And I'd like to build up more of a tolerance to it so I'm able to enjoy it.
And then your mom and dad sent you cigars to get you through in the Marines. I think that's when your desire for cigars took off.
Yeah, that's definitely when my palate got a little more tough, and whatever downtime I got from the Marine Corps, which was like on deployment. There's a lot of downtime, and then there's also a lot of like stand to, like double time, if that makes sense. You know, hurry up and wait mentality. We all know like a sense of that in our workspace or at home even. But in the Marine Corps, there was a lot of that, and I used that to ultimately smoke a stogie. Fun fact for you, I think the term stogie came from settlers, like pioneers, who would roll tobacco and would smoke it in the wagon while they're riding the horses to keep them awake so that they didn't fall asleep.
On the Conestoga wagons?
On the Conestoga wagons, like the wheels, yep. That's why it's called stogie now, I believe. I think that's like a legend.
Okay.
Don't hold me to it, though. Combustion ash line. It's pretty good, guys. I barely touched it up, maybe once or twice. It's not canoeing, though. Yours doesn't look like it's canoeing either. Looks pretty good. Still white ash. I'm not seeing any sort of plummeting ash line. Again, it's pretty good. It seems refined for now, but as far as that flavor profile, we're not going to be able to experience that to the fullest until we reach that second third, especially at that sweet spot with that last third.
I'd say at this point, when you're about an inch and a half, 2 inches in, you should be able to get a sense of the flavor. And more flavor is going to develop as the cigar continues. The last third, you're going to really be at the strongest point, I think, of the cigar. You'll have a full sense of the flavor spectrum. But this is a good cigar. I don't think I've had this purple label, the Noblesse. But where'd you get these, John?
I got these from Carolina Emporium in Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
Usually they don't have them.
Our favorite local cigar place. They're about 40 minutes away?
40 minutes. Manchester, Connecticut.
Yeah. And their prices are, from my experience of all the cigars here in Western Massachusetts, throughout New England,
cheaper, better.
I'd say they're the
lighter,
most reasonably priced. Yeah. They're accommodating. They're good. They're good guys.
Yeah, I saw these there, and usually I don't see these in any sort of cigar lounge or cigar humidor, because people are getting them. They're coming in hot, and they're going out before the steam even is done rising. I mean, and that's putting it lightly. Like when these came out, I think they first came out in like a very light baby blue label, and my father's expected it to be a limited edition, like once gone, we're done making these type deal. But I think people like them so much that they brought them back in a different wrapper, which is a San Andreas wrapper, and they put a brilliant purple regal colored label on there. So I mean, I like the idea of that, you know.
The art's gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah.
I always love cigar art. The label makes, here's the question for you. Do you keep the label on while you smoke, or do you get rid of the label? Because we have a mutual friend. The minute he opens that cigar, he takes the label right off. Now, if you take the label off, it always bothers me, although I love the guy. But when you take that label off, now I think you lose something of the ambiance of the experience of the cigar, which is vital to cigar smoking. It's not just about nicotine. It's not just about
getting that high, chasing that high.
It's not about that at all. Rather, it's about it's the fellowship of the cigar. Whether you're alone or whether with your friend, you're talking about what you're smoking. You're looking at, you're thinking about where it's come from. You're considering who made it, what your experiences of these cigars have been before, memories you've had while you've smoked them. But the art, certainly, and the label on the cigar tells you something of the story and adds to the beauty of the cigar. And I don't lose my labels until I'm right up against it.
Oh yeah, I agree, and I think it's a trait in Britain. Correct me if I'm wrong. If any of the viewers out there are British, let me know in the comments, okay? But I think it first started out in like 19th, 18th century, possibly 20th century Britain, where taking off labels was customary because I guess you didn't want to like show up. How's the term go? You don't want to outclass everyone else smoking a different cigar than you.
Upstage.
Upstage, exactly. Thank you. You don't want to upstage, but it's like
Yeah.
I don't. I mean,
So
a lot of
pull it
guys.
out as a status symbol, but that's not what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's something prideful about. Yeah, I'm a return. A tried and true, like basic. My father's cigar. I'm pretty religious with smoking their stuff,
Yeah.
but I'll smoke anything else. I like keeping their labels on. It's like the same thing with driving a car. You're not going to take the Mercedes emblem off your car. You're going to drive around that Mercedes with the emblem still on, right?
The reality is, if you're sitting with somebody who's smoking and they're smoking a less expensive cigar, you're both still enjoying that fellowship of the moment, the fellowship of the cigar, the fellowship of the leaf.
Yeah.
And you're smoking to the glory of God. And that's the enjoyment, that's the blessing. So I don't think I've ever sat with a mindset that compares, I've got a better cigar than so-and-so who's sitting across. If anything, I want to share. If I've got a better cigar than the other guy, I want to share what I
Yeah, yeah. And if you get talking with him and he's like, yeah, this reminds me of my childhood, or yeah, I used to work on the farm and this is I used to work a lot with Connecticut shade. And I'm like, okay, I feel
There you
bad
go.
now.
Yeah.
Stands as a slap across my face. Every part, like, I have a buddy who smokes a lot of like Monte Cristos, the Dominican Monte Cristo. And I've smoked a couple. You smoked a couple Monte Cristos too.
Years ago, many years ago.
They're good. I'm not a religious Monte Cristo lover of cigars, though.
Everybody
I'm
has
really
a
not.
different flavor palette. Everybody has a different desire. So you smoke what you like. You smoke what you can afford. You smoke what's easy at hand. You smoke what's available.
Yeah,
You smoke what you can find.
yeah,
And you smoke on the basis of the occasion that you're smoking. If you're celebrating your wedding day,
oh yeah.
then you're going to have a great cigar.
Yeah, yeah.
What did we get you on your wedding day?
Not cigars.
I gave you a cigar.
You did?
We did.
What was it?
Oh, John.
What was it, dude?
I don't know if I can remember. We gave you a spectacular cigar.
Give me-
And I'm going to have to ask
What
your
did
mother.
you give
I'm
me?
getting old. We bought you a really good
Oh.
cigar, and I can't remember. It was your mother's idea.
Was it a Padron? Like a 90 years? Was it a Family Reserve?
I want to say it was. I remember buying.
Did I smoke it?
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you didn't throw it away. But we
Back
bought
then,
you.
I did know the Padron.
We bought you a prime cigar, and I gave it to you on your wedding day. I'll have to ask your mama what it was.
I would have liked to have smoked it during the day.
Maybe we'll take a look at some pictures.
Yeah. I don't
I'm
think
sure
I was.
you had other things to do that day.
Yeah, yeah. If I was smart, I should have bought a box of like really special cigars
Nah,
with the wife.
and you hand them out. to all
Yeah,
the people
hand them
around.
out.
Yeah,
Keep a lot to myself and let them age for a full year.
but that's the thing, though. Still, as we're talking about that occasion when you got married, there are many other memories.
Yeah.
But there's a significant memory in my mind that I handed you a very special cigar that day from your mother and me.
Yeah.
And it marked that day, and we wanted you to smoke it in memory of that particular day.
Mhm.
I think it was an anniversary series from Padron. I love those things. They're absolutely fantastic,
Yeah.
consistent cigars. They're very expensive, but they're really, really good.
So we all know Padron's really excellent and really good.
Oh yeah. I
Really?
even liked their main line.
Yeah.
They're very veiny.
They're series. They're number
rough.
series.
Yeah, they're very rough, but they have a very toothy wrapper, and they're fantastic. They're very consistent.
3,000 series, 5,000 series.
They're very
Yeah.
consistent.
One time this all goes into, the story I'm about to tell goes into picking the right box, knowing your stuff, knowing the humidity that cigar shop keeps those cigars at, but we'll get to that in a second. So I went me and my Marine buddy, we went into a gas station and they had a uncanny looking cigar humidor. And I was like, let's go in there. We check it and we see 2 boxes of Padron numbered series. One's Maduro, the other's natural wrapper leaf color. We decided to buy both of them, but we noticed that the cellophane is a little wet. And we opened them up after we purchased them, and the cigars were way too humid. So we messed up. In order to avoid doing that yourselves, it's best to, if the cigar lounge or cigar shop allows you to, actually see the cigar with your hand and with your eyes. Make sure that there's no over humidification or under humidification. Both can be an issue. Both can affect your experience altogether.
Yeah, that's unusual. I've never encountered an over humidified cigar.
They must have had it like 80.
Yeah, that's
like
weird.
above 80.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Usually when I go to a cigar place, when I buy cigars, they're often, the problem is that they don't humidify them enough. We have another local seller in the area we won't mention, but we don't like going there and buying cigars from them. They are more expensive, but at the same time, they're not very well humidified at all. And so we get them home and we clip the end and they begin to unravel quickly. And that's never a good experience either. Or if you go into a cigar shop, you pick out a cigar and they've got these little tiny holes as big as a centimeter. Or a millimeter even. They're very small. You can see them with your eyes, but I've seen that on occasion when the cigars have been around a little too long and the beetles have gone to work on them. But those are things to look for when you go to your tobacconist. You don't want to see beetles. You don't want to see cigar dust in the box. You don't want to. You don't want to see moisture, and you want to make sure they're not too dry. Or if they are dry, bring them home. Let them sit for a couple of weeks in your humidor.
Yeah, I think we're at the second, third.
I think so.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm having to touch this up a little bit more than I would want to. I'm trying to smoke it carefully, not puffing it too much.
I haven't had to touch mine up at all.
Yeah, I must be a quick puffer.
It's skill.
Yeah, sure it is.
You're trying to keep the dialogue going.
At least
that's okay.
At least I keep it real, and at least I chum it all up to user error, rather than saying, "Oh no, Ashton, my fathers, they suck." I'm just like, you know what?
I think these are refined. They're well aged. We have the ability to compare our mutual experiences. So it may not be because of the cigar that you're having that problem. It may just be because you're talking or you're hurrying with it, or it could be anything.
Yeah.
Or the fan's over near you. But I haven't had any such touch-up issues. Mine's pretty consistent right across the board.
Nice.
It's smoking well. The ash is holding together.
Still white.
I'm pleased. Yeah. As far as the flavor profile, I think it's a full, medium to full body cigar. There are notes of sweetness here, but
I'm getting chocolate.
It's quite pleasing. It's a good cigar. It's a good cigar.
I'm getting a nice deep earthy.
Mouthfuls of smoke.
Yeah. I'm getting a lot of deep earth and chocolate right now, currently. No dried fruit yet, though. Possibly, though. We'll see. We'll see if it opens up to like a nice cedar note, or if it mellows out to a nice coffee aroma, perhaps.
There's some fruit there.
A little bit, right?
There's some fruit in this. The one that we had the other day together, the black labeled one.
A small batch.
Small batch.
Small batch.
That one was just very distinctively raisin or date flavors there. It was very distinct. It was
So that was a very
sweet,
yeah.
flavorful, not an unpleasantly sweet,
Yeah.
like a Swisher sweet. I've had those in my youth, where you smoke it, you put it in your mouth, and they certainly put a
Sweet tip.
a sweet tip on there. That's not what I'm talking about at all.
More like a chocolate sweetness.
But there's a flavor. Yeah, there's a flavor. Aromatic notes, we'll say.
That's another thing too. I feel like my father's does very well with putting in the right blend of, I think it's seco, the part of the tobacco plant that's responsible for the aroma. Is it the seco or the viso? It's either one of those. Ligero is for the strength. It's for the flavor, obviously. The wrapper is for the wrapper. We know that, folks. It's the Viso and it's the Seco that gets me confused. I know either one is responsible for combustion and aroma of the cigar. I feel like my father does it very well with making the aroma of their cigars come to life, because I feel like I'm getting a very pleasant aroma from this Noblesse right now.
The Pepin family are really master blenders.
I see where you're going with that dried fruit. Maybe not like grape, probably more fermented than a grape type of dried fruit,
Could have something to do with what we're drinking too.
That's the thing. Do you feel like this pairing is hindering the taste, or do you think it's
helping?
It's helping.
There's always a relationship between what you've eaten or what you've been drinking, along with what you're now smoking.
So if I were to drink a Guinness stout beer right now, this would just the flavor would be lost in there because that's such a strong beer.
It would accentuate other flavors for you.
It would do other ones.
It would accentuate other flavors. So the things that you eat and what's on your palate, what you've just come from, let's say you've eaten supper, they will tend to influence your experience of the cigar you've just had. I find I do better with a cigar when I've just come from dessert or I'm having a sweeter drink. Some guys swear by coffee.
Yep.
Other people just swear by drinking water. I can't imagine that, but
yeah.
Some coffee certainly would bring out flavor in the cigars that you smoke. But one thing I don't like to have before I smoke a cigar is steak.
Really?
I'll eat the steak, but something else has to come in between that. Because going into a cigar with meat, I don't necessarily want that. One time...
Really?
Yeah, one time I was with your mom and we were on an anniversary trip, and many years ago, I was in seminary, and so we went down to New Orleans, and we had, or as they call it, Nolans. And we went down there, and there was a gambling boat out on the shore, and they allowed cigars in this huge room where you could eat your
ballroom.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Cool. It's gorgeous.
And they had fans, and they got all the air out of there.
Ceilings.
They got all the smoke out. They vented it out. But it was the oddest thing to me to have a meal, and then to kick back and light a cigar in this room with other diners. But I asked our waiter multiple times if it was all right. But I had a good time. But I had just eaten a steak, and the flavors are okay. They might draw up more of a sense of the leather and the leaf, but once I paired that with dessert, it was much, much better.
Okay. I disagree with you on that.
Okay.
I feel like a meat would go very well.
Yeah.
I see what you mean, though. That
Right.
makes sense.
All right. So you like to have a big steak wrapped around your cigar.
I mean, I'd love to if I had, better paycheck, steak every meal and then a cigar right afterwards, you bet. Usually, for me, it's ground beef. That's usually what the wife cooks up for dinner, and then after that, it's like a starch potato, or usually after I work out, I'll eat like dates with peanut butter. That helps to bring out the sweet notes. Dates with peanut butter.
This really has great smoke.
Mm.
Has great smoke. Label's still on too.
And if you're a label collector, if you wait till the ash line gets all the way down to the label, that vegetable gum is still keeping that label intact. If you go ahead and rip those before your cigar is heated up, when it's gotten so low to that level, then you're going to rip apart the label, and it's not worth.
And you
keeping.
may rip your wrapper too. I've seen that happen.
That's the thing.
Next
too.
thing you know, you're ripping the wrapper off in your hands.
That's happened with our friend a couple times too, right?
Yeah. And the heat of the cigar will loosen up that vegetal.
I like what you said earlier, smoking to the glory of God.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm a Christian. I love doing things, and with a perspective in mind, which is doing everything under the glory of God. Whether I'm going to the post office, dropping off a package for my wife, I wake up, I go to sleep, or I'm in a grocery store and someone needs help moving a cart or anything of that nature, or handing out a tract or cash to a homeless person on the road, I feel the urge from my Heavenly Father just to bear witness, share the gospel, and not only do that, but also say to a brother, here's food for money, here's money for food. But ultimately, what I have to offer you is the gospel, which is, quite frankly, food for our souls. Which, both go hand in hand. If you preach the gospel, that's great, but you have to have something to put in the hands of the masses for them to realize, ultimately, the provision of God.
God has given us good things.
Mm.
And God is gracious enough to give us good gifts. And He's given us gifts to enjoy, but those gifts cannot become our focus, nor can we become owned by those good gifts. And so, as a cigar smoker, I smoke with liberty of conscience, but at the same time, not with the intensity that a cigarette smoker would, in the sense that I have to smoke continually and I have to smoke all the time. With a cigar, I can smoke when I have opportunity, and I can smoke within the framework of what I can afford, and I can smoke in such a way that I don't have to smoke all the time. In other words, we're given things to enjoy, but we're also given things with the prohibition that we ought not to be owned by those things. And addictions. Right? So I love cigar smoking. I haven't given myself over to cigar smoking, but when I do smoke a cigar, I'm mindful of God's grace and of His mercy through Jesus Christ.
Amen.
That God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whomsoever should believe in Him would have everlasting life. And I'm grateful to God for His greater gifts.
Yeah.
There's a story about a southern theologian who would smoke cigars and or use tobacco. I think he was he was using it in the form of snuff.
Snuff.
So it's tobacco. But his sister would write to him and talk about the evils of the snuff that he enjoyed. The tobacco.
Call it the stuff of the devil.
Yeah. And she would complain, and she was a very sickly woman, and after some season she became more and more ill, and so finally he wrote back to her and said, "My dear sister, what you condemn as a vice in others, some make use of to the glory of God." And he said, "So my sister, in light of my robustness of health and in light of your weakness of health, I encourage you to smoke, smoke, smoke." And so he was actually recommending it as a solution for her frequent illnesses. But certainly God has given us tobacco, and
it's called king's weed after all.
As opposed to devil's lettuce, I've heard.
That is funny.
So what's your absolute favorite cigar right now, John?
Absolute favorite?
The best cigar, if money was no object.
Obviously that I've tried. As far as cigar that I've tried that is probably the best. I'd ultimately have to say either the the Padron
Your favorite?
the Padron 90 years. I think that's an excellent smoke. The Figurado, just gorgeously refined, and leaves you absolutely satisfied with that smoke, not wanting anything less after you smoke it either way. So that's why you shouldn't smoke too many of those. Um, it has to be one of those. Or, I mean, the small batch that I smoked from La Roma de Cuba was probably one of the best smokes I've ever smoked, too.
It was a great cigar. Yep. I would have to say my favorite right now is the ALR.
By Rocky Patel?
Yeah. The
what does that mean? ALR? Is
aged,
that limited?
maybe I'm getting it wrong.
Age limited rare.
reserve.
Rare.
Rare, age limited rare.
Yeah.
All right, I have a label somewhere, but I think they're absolutely fantastic, and I really.
You have a box
really
over there,
like
and I think
those,
that's is that a first edition or a second edition?
second.
Because they did come out with them at some point
Yeah,
before.
it's second edition.
Okay. So everything you like about it. That does have a San Andreas wrapper to it too,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I tend to love Nicaraguan cigars. I love the heavier flavored, heavier bodied cigars. Big and dark, that's my motto.
Big and dark.
Big and dark. Rocky Patel, for a long time, I really didn't like anything that he had. I tried because they were often be on sale, but they were, I thought they were mild. I didn't think they were great. He didn't make any big sizes, but then he came out with these, with the 60. The 60 will blow your socks off.
Yeah.
It's a really wonderful cigar.
It's a nice red label.
Yeah, and then the ALR. They're both outstanding cigars if you want to spend some money on a cigar. But I think the ALR at our tobacconists, we get them for a pretty reasonable price.
Yeah.
Around $13, $14.
Really?
Yeah, they're not bad.
These were 21 at
Oh,
Carolina Tobacco Emporium. So these are going out hot and quick.
yeah.
That should tell you all the more. But I do see why, because that chocolate that I mentioned earlier, it's still sticking to my palate. It's getting deeper though. I'm still not getting cedar, which is, it's great. I love a different smoke. I think chocolate is one of my most desired notes with a cigar. I like it. I'm not getting any sort of nuttiness. Usually I do like that nuttiness, but I like other notes better. I like the chocolate. I like the nice leather aroma. I do like a nice deep espresso too. What are
Those
you
are all
getting?
desirable. In the retro ale, I'd say some floral, maybe leather.
Yeah.
There's some sweetness, some fruit there, but it's a pleasing smoke. Sometimes I don't really even want to think about or even get into, all the various, specific or particular notes.
Yeah.
I just take in the whole thing
Yeah.
and enjoy the flavor of the whole.
It's almost like that can your over obsessiveness with notes can get in the way of if you enjoyed the cigar or not, because you could be such a cigar snob, or even a good cigar, you're like, nope, it didn't have my favorite notes, I didn't like it, I'm not buying it again. Even though it crossed all those check marks where, yep, 10 out of 10 construction, yep, 10 out of 10 flavor development, 10 out of 10 out of 10 out of 10 out of price, and
Yeah.
and
It really comes down.
Yeah.
We can simplify it. It really comes down to what you, as a cigar smoker, enjoy, and what appeals to you, what reminds you of pleasant circumstances or things you've enjoyed, or memories that you've had, or friends that you were smoking with. And the cigar, it has to please you in its performance. I've seen guys smoke very expensive cigars that are really, really good, and they just didn't like them. Or guys that have smoked really inexpensive, cheap cigars, but in that moment, they just absolutely loved. And I've come away from a cigar where, there wasn't a lot of flavor there. But I really enjoyed the experience. There was during the height of the cigar boom in the '80s, the late '80s. I was actually selling cigars. Selling more than that, just grocery lines, cigars, tobacco products, all kinds of things. But I was buying cigars. I was a young father. We had 3 kids at that point, my wife and I, and so I'd buy an occasional cigar. And cigars were everywhere. They were proliferating. Everybody was making cigars in the late '80s, and there was there was a maker of cigars that was in Las Vegas, and they produced some cigars. I think they were Vegas 5 or something like that. That their name. I know I've got their labels in one of my boxes somewhere. But they were Candela wrappers. Candela is green. It's a green.
Nice.
They refine them.
So they're not.
They keep them green. They don't
mature them.
They do mature them.
Okay.
But it's different in the fire curing.
They don't age it as long.
They don't. They certainly don't age them as long, and they don't hang them for as long. They don't use fire to cure the leaves or to dry once they're fresh. So they keep them green, and they were very, very, very grassy. A green Candela wrapper is going to taste
desirable?
Very grassy, weedy.
It was different.
And
was it desirable?
There was something different about them. So I enjoyed the difference of them, and so. Nowadays, if I come up with that in a premium cigar, if I come up with that flavor, you're going to say, "Ooh, that's like wheat, that's like grass," and it's not going to be good. But those cigars, it was enjoyable smoking them, knowing what to expect, and I actually have a bit of nostalgia about them. I'd love to see if I could get one of those at some point, but I don't think they're around anymore. But there was something enjoyable about them, just because. They had realistic expectations about the flavor of the cigar, and they were good. They marketed them with that mentality. So it really comes down to what one's particular taste, even in that particular moment, may be.
And everybody's different. I mean, you look at the way that
you want a lighter cigar.
You look at the way that people eat something as simple as eggs and steak. Everybody's different. Some people like Some people like medium well, some people like rare, some people like blue, whoever you are. I don't know why, how. Some people like their eggs well done, practically black.
It's all right.
Some like them over easy, some of them like them sunny side.
Yeah.
All of them are a reason for cigars,
Personal taste is a funny thing. My wife likes steak well done. I like medium rare.
Oh, yeah. So my recurring smoke in my humidor tends to be either LFD chisels, or it tends to be some sort of blend, whether it's La Roma de Cuba, my father's signature Don Patin, or the Antiquidad, or San Cristobal too. I do like those ones. Those tend to be my reoccurring stock ups in my humidor for cigars. What about you?
I think about what's in my humidor. I'd say in the last couple of years, what I've tended to keep there more than any other has been the Punch Diablo square pressed.
Yeah.
When they first came out, I could get them for about $6-7 a piece. That's pretty reasonable. And they're a big cigar. They're 6x66.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big hunk.
Square press.
Yeah, it's a big, and yeah, I like the dimension of a square press cigar. It's an enjoyable, pleasing dimension to me. It adds to the aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
But they were very reasonable. They were reasonably priced. Now, I think they're closer to $8 or $9, maybe $10, depending on where you're getting them. Whether you buy them as a single stick, or if you're buying them as a single stick at your tobacconist, they're probably around $12. But I tend to buy them by the box and have them in my humidor throughout the year. Yeah. And in addition, I'll have whatever appeals to me at that time. one or two. When I go to a tobacconist, I want to try a new cigar.
Oh yeah.
I'll buy two at a time because one's not enough to judge something.
Yeah, you taste it,
gotta
you
buy
love it, and it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. You're gonna want
At
to have
least
a
two or
second.
three.
If they're not really good, you're gonna say, "Geez, I want to try a second one to see whether or not I was just off that night." But
Or
I like to keep a 60, some ALRs,
those are
maybe
Rocky
some
Patels, okay.
pledges, some of the big pledges.
Now you mentioned an interesting master blender who needs to be mentioned.
Yeah.
That's EP Carrillo.
EP Carrillo.
Those are Dominican. See, you're mentioning Dominican, you're mentioning Honduran and Nicaraguan tobacco.
I don't tend to like too many Dominican Republic cigars. But EP Carrillo is he's in a class all his own.
And he still comes out with he does add Nicaraguan filler and binder and wrappers too.
That pledge
I think he's primarily based in Dominican though.
Yeah. That pledge is legend. It really is. And it still is. It's consistent.
Yeah. And I figured out recently that even though that Punch Diablo, it's in Punch's name, the master blender behind it, guess who it is? AJ Fernandez.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He makes an incredible amount of cigars from all sorts. He makes a Monte Cristo. He does all sorts.
AJ Fernandez makes the Punch Diablo.
He had a hand in blending.
I didn't know that.
You got to look that up after.
All right. Okay.
I came across it. I do believe he is.
Yeah, I think they're for the bang for the buck. They're really good. We could have had 4 for the price of these 2. 4 of those Diablos.
That's
and if
the
you're
thing.
Smoking on a budget, that's what you want to think about.
Yep. But hey,
and I
budget
usually
smokes,
am.
Yeah, budget smokes are great and important.
Oh yeah,
we like them.
Yeah.
But sometimes, I mean, that we have the ladies talking about self-love. What about the guys talking about self-love? Maybe we need a $20 cigar every now and then.
Special occasion.
Yeah.
Special occasion. Special occasions are okay.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be good stewards too.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's time to take this off. It's been getting loose as it's been getting warmer anyway.
Yeah.
It's a fine smoke, John.
Yeah, it's still holding firm. It was well humidified.
Last third here.
Last third here. We talked about great things to talk about when you're smoking. What are the don'ts? What are the subjects to avoid while smoking? There's got to be some.
Well, politics naturally comes up.
Yeah.
But it depends on who you're with. If you're with mutual friends and you know how each other thinks, then all right, politics may be okay. But generally speaking, in a mixed crowd where you don't know,
like a cigar lounge,
you've got to be careful. So you can talk about maybe local politics. You can talk about the cigars and what everybody likes, things that we've been talking about thus far. What do we like? What do we enjoy? I've met a lot of guys over a cigar. Sometimes I've met people that I didn't recognize at all, and they're like, "Yeah, I know you," and I wouldn't have had that opportunity without sitting down in a cigar lounge with somebody and smoking a cigar. I met a fellow chaplain at one point at a cigar place. Somebody came up and grabbed me from behind, and I had no idea that he and I were mutual acquaintances. We didn't know anything about each other much. We just knew we served in the same context as chaplains, but I do that as side work, as a personal opportunity for witness and ministry, and so he showed up at this cigar lounge and threw his arms around me, and we were like instant friends because we didn't realize that we both liked cigars. So I promised him that the next time I see him, I've got to bring him a cigar.
Okay. That's a good bet. That's a good bet.
In fact, I need to write that down.
It's okay. Writing that down.
I'm getting old. I don't remember anything.
And that's why I think it's so important to just, before you go into a cigar lounge, understanding why the lounge is there. Men want to go to a lounge, or a woman. Obviously, cigar smoking has both has both of a following from the men as well as the women folk, which is great. I love it. Keep it up, you know. They go there to drop their guard and just relax. You know, nobody's like, yeah, I want to go to Cigar Lounge and get 3 hours deep into some sort of political strife and contention with some random people that I just met that I'm going to meet. Like, that's the last thing you want to do is have your guard up again after you've had your guard up for the whole day at work or at home. You want to go to the lounge, have a good conversation, have a good smoke, right?
I think cigars are something you can talk about without acrimony. There's an acceptance between cigar smokers. Exactly as we've been talking about earlier when we were talking, we were saying that no one's critical of anyone else because you're smoking a lesser cigar. Nobody's criticizing your choice because you've got a Connecticut, broadleaf, and I've got a nice Cameroonian wrapper. Nobody's critical of another person because they like a lighter blend, or I like a heavier blend. Nobody's criticizing that. But you can talk about your personal likes and dislikes without acrimony, without dislike, without criticism, and you can just simply, with full acceptance of the crowd that you're talking with, explain what you like. And so I think when you're at a cigar lounge, the best thing to talk about is cigars. You talk about what you like, you talk about what you've experienced, what you've had recently. You ask each other, you ask questions. Hey, what are you smoking? Hey, what do you think? Is that any good? And would you recommend that? And
when has a conversation in the cigar lounge never started with,
that's right,
what are you smoking?
What are you smoking, dude?
What are you smoking? Hey, you, what are you smoking?
Yeah.
Classic.
Yep.
Still getting a very consistent chocolate, and it's getting slowly more powerful towards that last third. I think we're encroaching upon that last third.
The smoke is getting heavier, thicker. I tend to smoke cigars fast, relatively fast. I'm a little trying to be slow right now, but my wife tells me I eat too fast, and so I smoke too fast too. But I usually go through a 6 or 7 inch cigar in about an hour and a half. How about you? How about you?
Depends on how big, how heavy dose that Ligero is, the flavor. Because cigars with like Cane by Oliva, or in this case like a Nea F8 by Duran Cigars, like they have a higher dose of Ligero, which means Ligero burns a little slower than the rest of the cigar. The wrapper burns pretty quicker than the rest. That binder, my bad, takes longer to burn than the filler, which is the light. Sometimes it's Ligero, sometimes it's a different blend than just the Ligero. I'll ultimately average like an hour and a half, hour and 50.
What was that cigar you just mentioned, by Duran?
Nea F8.
Never heard of that. What is that?
It's a cigar by a very interesting gentleman, Roberto P. Duran.
Okay.
Esteli, Nicaragua.
See, there's always new makers, always new cigars.
And one of my subscribers suggested it.
Really?
The gentleman to me, and
Yeah.
I looked him up.
Never heard of him.
He's an actual boutique master blender. He comes out with really good blends. Nea F8. It's a high Ligero octane cigar, pedal to the metal type deal. Those were amazing. A really good cedar, consistent flavor all the way throughout. It opened up really good. I liked it. And as far as like 7x70s, like I was saying to you guys earlier, like they unravel just because of how big they are, how difficult it is to make such a huge cigar. But I think he did it brilliantly. The wrapper didn't unravel. The flavor didn't get lost in all that smoke. So you're mentioning a very pivotal point with cigar history. We had the old world cigars, the Cubans. They were very prominent. That was all you could get as far as handmade, real deal, big deal Cuban cigars from Cuban seed on Cuban land. Then it took a shift. That was no more readily available for cheap, decent prices, and in such a great quantity anymore, and on such a reliable case.
Yeah, as soon
You're
as
mentioning-
Kennedy approved the embargo, went out, had his assistant buy up all the cigar boxes that he could of his favorite brand from local tobacco.
I think it was H. Upman.
Before he signed off before he signed the declaration or whatever the legislation was.
Cuban embargo.
Yep. But after that, yes, the world was like, especially here in America, because we've had an embargo, where do we get cigars from? And what do we do? And of course, a lot of the families were relocated at that point. They left Cuba and began producing cigars, but it took a while. It took a while before they were able to fight through the trademarks in order to keep their cigar labels. Certainly, you think of Partagas, you think of H. Upman, you think of many others, Monte Cristos and others. They had to get the rights to be able to continue to produce cigars with their label name. But now that we find ourselves in 2026,
New World Cigars.
There's consistency.
Yeah.
There's a lot of makers that are based in the Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, Honduras, that really, even Miami, that produce really good cigars that rival the Cubans. And we've seen certainly, at least I've seen some of the decline in Cuba, where there's more and more inconsistency, difficulty in obtaining consistency across the lines as they make them.
Yeah. So let's just say it. You and I have bought Cuban boxes of cigars. How many of those cigars were inconsistent in one box of 25?
Here's the rub. How do we know that they were genuinely Cuban?
I added air quotes back there.
There are so many counterfeits.
How many inconsistencies were in that box?
There are so many counterfeits.
3, 4, 5 cigars maybe?
There's so many
half.
counterfeits.
With New World cigar box, how many inconsistent cigars would you expect?
They're very consistent.
Exactly. Yep.
You don't tend to see counterfeit Arturo Fuente. You don't see counterfeit Partagas.
You do see counterfeit Padrones, though.
Okay, I've
a little
never
bit.
seen that. Really?
That's why they add the numbers on their family reserves.
Okay.
So Padrone has a little issue with that because they're so sought after.
All right.
Which is crazy.
I'll bet you I could tell the difference between the real one and the counterfeit one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, Cubans. I have a friend who buys Cubans on the internet. He buys them all the time, and he gives them freely. He's a nice guy. He's a great guy. But what I've smoked has been not very good. Not very good flavor, inconsistency with the burn, very thin smoke. I'm not convinced they're genuinely Cuban. That being said, I had a friend years ago. He and his wife went on a trip to the Dominican Republic or some island, and he brought back one cigar for me, just one in a little green tube about that big. It was an H. Upman. It was just a little cigar. It looked really rough. I didn't expect a lot from it.
Yeah.
But that was one of the best cigars I've ever had.
Wow.
And that was a Cuban. It was one of the best I ever had. That was I'd say around 2003.
Okay.
Very good cigar. I still have the tube somewhere in my box.
You should have given me one. I was 2 years old at the time. I could have smoked that.
It's only one.
Come on. See, if you got the money and you're willing to chance it, obviously you can get whatever you want with your money. But if you want something consistent, readily available, reliable, look no further than the New World cigars. Yeah.
It's great smoke.
Yeah. A little bit of a cedar undertone to that deep chocolate that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I agree with that.
A little bit. I imagined if we had a coffee before or during this, that would bring out a lot of coffee.
Yeah. The head is held together really well.
Yeah.
Despite my gumming everything, the head is held together well. There hasn't been a lot of movement. Usually what you see is the wrapper will come out over the edges and drag over the head of the cigar. I don't have any of that here.
Yeah.
It's remained rolled very, very well, very tightly, but not overly tight. It's been really good. It's a very well constructed cigar.
I feel like San
Still
Andreas.
consistent.
Yeah.
I haven't had to take my lighter to this once.
Yeah. I get it.
He's distracted.
So you see good alternatives here. You see my dad being able to smoke it, take his time, not having to relight it. And then you got me, the youngster. He's a little inconsistent. He puffs it a little too much. I puff it probably like 2-3 times in 45 seconds to a minute, which is a little too quick. But we're both still enjoying it.
We're smoked at the same level, I think.
We're both still enjoying it. And my experience isn't ruined altogether.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more work I got to do.
Cigar. Yeah. So do you keep your labels?
Yeah, I do. In that we did purchase rare pinks at some point from like a really nice.
We did. It was a surprise.
Yeah.
We went into a tobacconist we'd never been to before.
Yep.
And we were just we usually when I go into a tobacconist, I don't go to one specific thing and I don't grab a single cigar until I've gone through the entire place. So I'll walk in and I'll look up and down around all the shelves. I'll go around and around the humidor. And then I've got a pretty good sense in my mind of what he's got and what I want. And so we had gone through this tobacconist, we had looked, and then as we were leaving, we saw against the back wall as we were actually exiting through the door of the humidor, and there on the shelf down near the floor were some rare pinks, and so we grabbed a couple.
Did you catch sight of it first?
I think you did.
I saw them and I said, "Oh, these are Arturo Fuentes.
Yeah.
Are these any good, Dad?" What did you say? Did you know about rare pinks before then?
I knew about rare pinks. I've heard about them, and for me,
You've never tried them before.
Arturo Fuente is a classic maker. They've been in the business for 50, 60 years.
They make everything.
They make a
filler.
lot. Yeah, they're great. They're really consistent, and their Hemingway and short stories are fantastic. I like the Killer Bee. That's a thick, chewy.
Don Carlos too. Their line.
Don Carlos was one. It was the Don Carlos. It's gargantuan. It's like 9 inches long. Don Carlos, a big black stick, was the first Arturo Fuente I ever had. And a trucker gave them to me. I was offloading a guy at a grocery store, and the trucker said that he had just been to the tobacconist that day. I think it was like 1989. And I was just at the resurgence, and
they were 20 years in the making at that point.
yeah, and
Probably.
he pulled one out of his pocket. He had a couple of them, and I thought they looked amazing. So I immediately, he gave me one, and I really enjoyed that. But Arturo Fuente makes some great cigars. That being said, they make the Opus X. And I have tried to like Opus X. I want to. They're beautiful cigars. Their labels are gorgeous. But I have never smoked an Opus X, and I'm going to say something that's
very controversial.
That's very controversial. But I have smoked at least, I'd say a couple dozen Opus X's of various sizes and shapes. And I have never enjoyed a single one. And I like big, dark
What does
cigars.
that mean when you've never enjoyed them?
I have
Consistency,
not found
flavor, price.
I think
those?
the price is very, very high. We know that.
Yep.
I think they've smoked consistently. They have not, you haven't canoed up the side or anything. But
Flavor
I just have not found their flavor to be great. I haven't found them to be all that complex.
Yeah.
I feel like the smoke is not great. Sometimes the draw is not very good. They're too tightly wound.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I've tried with Opus X, and I just can't do it. I just don't think they're worth the money. That being said, I heard about the rare pinks. I didn't know much about them, and I had never bought them, but I was with my son. He wanted to try one, so we each bought a couple.
They were expensive.
They were expensive.
Were they as expensive as Opus? I don't think they were as expensive.
They were more.
They were more, okay.
But I will say this, we each had one together, and they were outstanding.
Some of the top 5 cigars
Absolutely
are favorite.
They were outstanding. They were really good.
And we've had quite a few of them.
Yeah.
They're consistent.
Well, I've had maybe 3 or 4.
You've had less than 10.
Oh yeah.
I've had less than
not
10
cheap.
too. They're excellent. They're consistent. I've had like 4 or 5 Opus X, Opus. Same thing. The flavor, I mean, I've gotten so much better flavor from a cheaper cigar than Opus. And that's just controversial, but it's plain simple.
I'd rather buy 2 or 3 good pledges than to buy an Opus X these days.
Pledge GP Pereira, yeah.
have not been found them pleasing. But the rare pinks were fantastic. Consistently.
You're going to have me do a review on a rare pink at some point, huh?
I'm not going to spend the money, but you can.
No.
But yeah, that's a good cigar. Those were great cigars.
Getting a little bit of molasses now. Are you getting molasses? A little sweetness from molasses?
Yeah, there's some
brown sugar.
Yeah,
even.
it's good. It's not overbearing. I'd say it's very subtle.
Is this a refined smoke or is this a powerhouse? I think
it's not the strongest I've ever smoked, but it's strong. It's a good strong cigar.
Yeah. I'm getting crescendo vibes from this. At first it was a one-dimensional cocoa. Now it's evolving into a more like a deeper nice chocolate, sweetness, molasses.
Like any cigar, the flavor develops.
Great.
So here's a question for you.
What?
Do you smoke it all the way down to the nub?
Yeah, I do. Sometimes I'll feel a little nauseous, a little queasy, and I'm like, okay, I gotta quit right then and there, and just quit while I'm ahead. But if I'm feeling good, which is most of the time, I'll smoke it down to the nub.
If you're eating or drinking something with it, you're better off. You won't get nauseous. But yeah, I tend to smoke them down. I can't stand when somebody will put a cigar that's still that much remaining and they put it into the ashtray. They're all done. I want to cut them up.
Yeah, it's
if it weren't for the spit,
yeah,
I'd cut them up and re-roll them myself and smoke it. I remember reading.
That's a rookie mistake.
Yeah, I remember reading an article about Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's a man with all kinds of money; he can buy whatever he wants, but he will. When he was governor of California, he was smoking cigars. They featured him in a Cigar Aficionado, and he talked about when he was unable to finish a cigar, he would just let it go out, and then he'd put it in his pocket, in his suit pocket, and then he'd walk away and he'd smoke it the next morning or smoke it later on that night. And I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I do the same thing. Yeah. I don't leave a cigar unsmoked.
Yeah.
If I can't finish it, I'll put it in the ashtray carefully. I'll come back to it, relight it later on. It's still good.
And they're still good.
And you get your money's worth.
Which is important.
Yeah.
You're not going to cut off the filet mignon of the steak and say, I'm full. I'm just going to throw away the filet. Or, yeah, that last bit of strip on that T-bone, yeah, I'm just throwing it away, Yeah. You don't do that with food. Why are you going to do it with smoke?
Yeah. Put it in the fridge, come back the next morning. Have it for breakfast.
Yeah. Your smoke is literally costing as much as like a singular New York strip. Why are you throwing that out? Is this worth getting in the future, do you think? As far as, putting this right beside other My Father cigar development. You think this is worth a restock, possibly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good, fine cigar.
You ready for a rating?
Sure.
So 1 out of 10, flavor, construction, price. What do you think?
Price is high.
$21, yeah. Price is high.
I could replicate most of the flavor, most of the performance of the cigar for about $8 to $12.
$8 to $12?
Easily.
Yeah.
So the price is
That's brutal.
Price is a killer. But that being said, as a special unique cigar, absent of the price, it's extremely well constructed. It's got a toothy, pleasing wrapper. It's got a great shape.
Yeah.
The aesthetics of it are great. The smoke is wonderful. It's burned consistently. I would say that it's an 8 out of 10.
No doubt.
What do you got?
I think price. I'd label price as a 6. The reason being, it's higher than a 5. You know, a 5 is like meh, maybe, maybe not. 6, I'd say, because I think this does have a unique flavor profile, a nice deep chocolate, not some sort of like artificial chocolate. I mean, I feel like this is chocolate straight out of the brick, you know, straight out of the ground, straight off the tree from that cacao tree, however they harvest it. I like that. I think this does better price range than like a Padron or like a higher end Arturo Fuente or higher end like boutique blend. So that being said, I gave that a 6. Flavor profile, I give this a 7. I like the flavor. It has opened up greatly, and it's a powerhouse, but it's also refined. It's a crescendo. It's evolved. It's developed. But I could be getting better, like what my dad said, a more diverse flavor with other cheaper cigars. So that being said, a 7 out of 10. As far as construction, 10 out of 10. There's no cracks. The cap is excellent. The draw is perfect. The ash line, it's great. It's white. I've had to touch it up a bit. That's my user error. That's why I rated it a 10. Overall, I'd rate it a 7. What about you overall? 8. Nice.
Good cigar.
It's a good cigar. We like it.
On its own, I'd say an 8. If I'm comparing it to other cigars, then I'd say I can think of 3 or 4 right off the top.
Probably even
that are my favorites.
Yeah.
I'd say I'd prefer, but
yeah.
But I really like Aroma de Cuba. I like the maker. I like their construction. I think they're really good cigars. I think they're well constructed. They're very pleasing in their flavor. The aesthetic of the cigar is fantastic. Very good experience with this cigar. It's burning a little hot, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's at the end, and I smoke fast, so that's all right. But
yeah.
It's been a great cigar.
Yeah, I think so too. So thanks for watching, guys. And if you like this content with what I'm coming out with, or if you like my dad being a star guest here, sharing his knowledge that he's learned for decades, practically. I mean, he's practically my mentor here, you know, come on. Then let me know, comment, share with me your thoughts on what you think about the Noblesse from La Aroma de Cuba. Let me know. Subscribe if you like this content. Share with me what you'd like me to try in the future, what you'd like, what you think is bad or better. Okay, so you know what you've seen. It's John and Dad at Cigars and Scripture. And I hope you guys have a spectacular evening and a good weekend, okay? So stay tuned for more videos.
Great to be with you all.